is, or that I'm like thinking that conservatives have good policy. I'm pro-choice. The issue is that you can look at it right now. There's no charismatic leaders. There's no front runners. There's no policy position. It seems like the only thing they ever had is the right is bad, Trump is bad. And so I'm asking, like, what are our plans?
No, they have Democrats have policy positions on everything, and many of them are, I think, preferable to Republican policy positions. Number one being they concede elections. That's kind of a big one with me. They listen to what courts say.
I don't know about that.
You don't think they listen to what courts say? I mean,
so Joe Biden,
I mean, that's
ignored the court rulings twice on forgiving student loans, and then tried to decree the Equal Rights Amendment.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah. I'm not saying to defend Trump. I'm just saying, like.
Club Random is brought to you by the Freedom from Religion Foundation. You text us those options. Good tomorrow.
You already know how I feel about that,
which is not untrue. Where it's so easy for them to go, well, they did this, so we're going to do it 5 times worse. And then they do. But there are some like that. But there's one that has no fuzz on it, and that's elections. When Democrats lose elections, it's over the next day. Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton.
Not Hillary Clinton.
Not
Al Gore.
Well, Al Gore that was not Al Gore doing that. That election was obviously decided by 537 votes. There was an absolute, when it's that close, there should be a recount. And whether that recount went the right way, we'll never know, because that state was run by Catherine Harris and Jeb Bush.
There's a real, sorry to interrupt, but there's a really good, I guess, I don't know if you call it a philosophical point that I've noticed that I think you're experiencing right now is, I'm 39. So you lived through a lot of these administrations and these political cycles.
Yeah.
And you have experiences that I don't even know they exist.
Yeah, but you know what? I didn't live through Lincoln, but I know about it.
Sure. My point is, my experience in politics has been the Democrats have challenged more than Republicans. To be fair,
Trump's challenged the court?
Challenged the elections more than the Republicans have, in extreme ways.
That's ridiculous.
So, but perhaps because you're older than me and you've seen more than I have.
Again, there are history books, there's newspapers.
I know.
You don't know something only because you lived through it. I know about the French Revolution also.
My point is,
I mean, you could know about this.
Indeed.
I mean, this is something that people your age say all the time, and I've made fun of it before. Like, it's this, like, if I wasn't alive for it, it didn't happen. I don't have to know about it.
But that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, but
I'm saying that in 2016, I didn't vote for either Trump or Hillary, and then I got 3 years of Trump as working for the Russians.
He was not working for the Russians.
Jonathan Chait went on MSNBC and said he may have been a Soviet asset since the 80s.
Well,
that's true.
And so for me, I'm like, I'm out. This is crazy. And so, like, understand.
I mean, not that Trump was Soviet asset. I mean,
saying that
he said that.
Experiencing a political cycle over years is different from reading the condensed history books, which of course I do. So to live through 4 years of a president, their term every single moment, the history books gloss over most of those experiences that we don't have as young people. So I have people on my show who are 25, and one of the people who works for us says nothing ever happens. She's 24. And this is like a Gen Z thing. Nothing ever happens. And I said, are you kidding? The past 10 years have been nothing but happenings.
Yeah.
Here's the issue. Yep. When she was 14, she wasn't paying attention to politics. When she was around 20 years old and started, this was the natural state of politics in her experience. So this is basic. This is normal. And for me, it's crazy. And I think for you, it's crazy. But they grew up in this and they've normalized it. So my view is this. Not to say that you're wrong, obviously. My point is, when I watched the Democrats accuse Trump and Manafort and Carter Page and all of these things, especially when they fabricated evidence against Carter Page, I'm just like, wow, I can't believe the Democrats are going to this length to deny an election.
You're watching a little too much Fox News or somebody who's slanting this a certain way. I mean, Paul Manafort was sharing polling information with a GRU agent.
And do you know how they found out about that?
How did they find out about that?
Ukrainian government officials shared it with the Democratic Party. So? Politico reported that. So you have this Ukrainian interference in our election as reported by Politico. And I look at that and I go, wow, the Ukrainian government sent incriminating evidence to the Democrats? Crazy story. Then they claimed Donald.
But it was true.
And indeed, and the issue is, why wasn't that a scandal that the
Okay.
Ukrainians were interfering in the election?
Let's not get, because this is a friendly thing. Let's not get into the weeds on like the Russia thing. First of all, it's like
why?
years old.
Why don't you want to get into the weeds?
Okay,
on the
I'll just
Russia
say this
thing
in general. It'd be hard to argue with it, I think, but I'll just say it, and maybe we can just move on. Whatever it was, I don't think Trump was a Russian asset. Don Jr. at one point said, or maybe it was Eric, we do get a lion's share of our to the company from the Russians. So there was obviously a lot of involvement with the Russians. Trump was asked at his first press conference, and he said, I have no dealings with the Russians. It's a total, complete lie. They had nothing. That's not illegal. It's not, but it's it just looks suspicious to say, I don't know anything about the Russia. I have no idea. And then like, I don't know anybody who's talking to the Russians.
Okay, so talking to Russian people versus talking to the Russian government are two different things. People often conflate anyone from Russia being Russian. Well, if that's the case, then anyone from Britain is British, you know? So, like, they're both foreign countries, or like anyone that's Chinese. Let's use China, because anyone that's Chinese is Chinese, you know? Oh, so you can't have any business dealings with China at all, with any Chinese people, because, you know, and actually there's more of a case that if you're dealing with the business with China, you're dealing with the Chinese government, because the CCP, you have to have a CCP member on the board of any business in China. So, yeah.
Everybody in the administration, Michael
of any scale,
was prosecuted for it, was talking to the Russians. He said on TV, Russia, if you're listening, I want your help with something. Okay, whether you think that's good or bad, it was completely unprecedented. So, like, the idea that he should not have been investigated for, there's a lot of smoke here with Trump and Russia. To me, okay, I'm sure they overdid it, as everybody.
There's a lot of smoke with Hillary in China. You know, there's a lot of smoke with Biden and Ukraine. You know, there's a lot of smoke with, and you know, you don't see the same reaction from on the left side. You know, if people were being honest, there's a lot of smoke with a lot of these politicians in foreign countries, because they're all like entangled in things. I just think that people should open up their eyes some. And I'm not, you know, picking one side or the other to really talk about. I think it's all bad. But to say like, oh, you know, Trump and Russia, that you gotta focus on that. Well, then you gotta focus on the other ones too. You know? And I'm not saying if he's doing wrongdoing, yeah, it should be exposed. But
He overdoes everything. But there was a lot of smoke, enough to investigate, and what he was asking another country to do in our elections publicly was unprecedented. We always had one rule in this country: we're going to go against each other. Yes, Republican, Democrat, we'll do whatever it takes, but we don't bring in ringers.
That's not true.
From outside.
Ukraine.
Look.
What they brought that in the same election?
I forgot the name.
Hold on. No. There's even more with that. I mean, Ukraine, sure, but you can BBC, British Broadcasting, the CBC. What about them? They interfere in every election we have. Every election. Granted, they're allies of us, but still, they have interfered with every single election. I know that we don't give free passes to non-allies, but we shouldn't be giving free passes to allies either. They all do that. So I don't see why it's they focus on one party, you know?
Name of the woman. This is on Politico. You can just read their story. It was I can't remember the guy's name who reported it.
No, it's possible that, again, there's always some version of it on the other side. It's just not as egregious, I think.
You know, they're accusing me of working for the Russians now, and this is, or they tried. And so here's the story. I get contacted by a conservative personality. I've got 3 shows that I host, several that I have staff that host. One of them is called The Culture War.
Right.
We produced it for 2 years, Friday mornings, similar to this, sometimes debates. And I was reached out by like 3 different companies who said, we want to license something you're doing. And I said, we do our own internal ad sales. We don't need a license. Some offers were made. Some of them were really good. And I said, I'm not really interested because the ad sales I can generate exceed your licensing. So I get reached out by this company in Tennessee from a well-known, prominent conservative personality who works for one of the big companies and said, we've secured an investor. We want to license the show. We negotiated terms, lawyer negotiated terms, market rate, non-exclusive license for distribution. They could sell the ads on the show. I get the money, the licensing fee, which basically, I can choose to grow the show for 2 years or just license it now and take the money.
You sound like you're a naturally savvy businessman.
Maybe. Well, this didn't work out too well for me because what happened was at the end of last year, the DOJ indicted some random, I say random because they're not personalities, some Russians who were apparently in some Eastern European country, claiming that they were funneling money illicitly into this conservative company in Nashville to then promote Russian propaganda or something. The narrative now is Tim Pool was prosecuted for working for the Russians. The real story is the DOJ launched an indictment and dropped it almost immediately with no evidence, accusing a conservative personality of illicitly taking money from the Russians without evidence, destroyed the company, destroyed their lives, and then impugned the honor of anybody who had done any license agreements with a Nashville-based company.
Well, you really hit people's nerves.
But I didn't do anything.
I tell you what I'm not going to do is show up unannounced at your door in the middle of the night. Hey, Tip, be like Sonny on the causeway, it'll be the end of Bonnie and Clyde. I'll just be like riddled with, boy.
It's a crazy
You
story.
got to take it as kind of a compliment. People care.
That's true. If they're not,
it's true.
I don't know.
But does it make your wife nervous? Does she hate it? Does she like, get out of the game, man?
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Get out of the game.
Yep.
Really?
Uh-huh.
And what do you say when she says, get out of the game?
Yes.
You do? You're going to get out of the game?
So.
No.
Yeah. Last October.
Wow. Scoop.
I basically was just fed up.
With the game?
With politics.
Oh, the game.
Absolutely. And I said, before I started doing my nightly show, I work 16 hours a day plus.
I was going to say, you got so much going on. Maybe just cut back. Less hours, more guns.
Maybe. Here's the problem. And I know that you can relate to this. I've got employees. I got staff.
Do you know you can have a harpoon legally in some states in this country?
I like that.
In case you're attacked by a whale.
But if I stop, then I got to fire everybody.
Well, that's a noble thing, and I've heard it before from people, and I always think it's bullshit. It's like you're hiding behind that. You really want to keep working, because you know why? Like, you achieved a big thing. You're a big success. No one saw it coming, including you, right?
I'm really arrogant.
Did you think you were going to be this when you were 15?
In some form, yeah.
Oh, really?
So Tim Pool I think Tim Pool's cut from a different cloth than most people. I think that Bill Maher would fire people, he wouldn't give a shit. He'd just let people go. I think Tim Pool actually does care about his staff. And because I know I personally, if I had a huge staff doing stuff, I would feel obligated to keep doing what I'm doing, actually even expand it, to make sure that my staff was okay. And if I work 16 hours, I work 16 hours because, other people rely on me. And that's a huge responsibility. Like, I can't imagine having that responsibility put on me. I'm glad that I'm a small time, streamer and stuff like that. It's fun to stream, but like, would I want to make a huge business out of this? No. Would I want to have like 30 people that I employ? No, I would not. It would, quite frankly, it would scare me, to have that many people and to know that I was being watched by that many people. No. I can do this because no one's watching me. I can live stream, stuff like that. But having a lot of people watch me, I don't know. It would take some getting used to, some growing. In which, I'm fortunate enough not to like go viral. But if I had some viral thing that I just went viral, I'd probably go away. Like you wouldn't see me anymore if I went viral. I would, disappear for a while, come back later, when I wasn't viral anymore. But Tim Pool, I feel like I think people should listen to him because I think he is burnt out and he does want to stop, but he can't because he feels for his staff. That's just my opinion. And from what he says, like, that's why I get the read from him.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a cocky
good.
piece of shit.
But doing this exact thing?
Or
close to it?
Close to it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to be a comedian when I was, before I was 10.
Yeah.
And then I imagined, in my day it was Johnny Carson, so I imagined being that. But it morphed into more, no, I think a political talk show, but also a gregarious, charming host would be, a great combination.
I think people who claim otherwise are lying. Not always. But come on, you didn't try your hardest and grind your fingers to the bone to get here thinking you weren't going to do it,
Oh, exactly.
You
But
did it
I'm
every day.
saying, like, I'm sure you're doing this and to keep your staff employed.
It's true.
But really,
It's-
you want to do it because, and why wouldn't you? You're 39. If you quit now, man, first of all, you're going to regret it because, once you quit, can you get it back? Yeah. But audiences move on quickly.
Yep.
Quickly.
They do now, too.
No, I'm saying, they always have.
Yeah.
Like when you go, you think you're so indispensable, and this is anybody, and you're not, because there's always people wanting to take your place.
Right.
I mean,
And it happens no matter what.
you could be at the top of the heap. You'll be
just me sitting here right now, with you, you have like, I would say that real time from my circle, I don't know, but I feel like it's the most consequential political show.
I appreciate that because it is, even though the problem is that the most influential media is controlled by that far left that hates me.
Yeah.
So they will never give it up to me.
But
they will never like write about it, say that. Nobody ever covers it. It's just like their thing is like, even though the audience is always there, and almost always in much bigger numbers than the things they do cover.
Yep.
One of the biggest videos we have, I think, is us talking about what you said. But
Good.
I
said that it means so much to me because like
it's not always good things we're saying.
Yeah, but at least you're watching,
right?
And you're allowed to be wrong.
Yeah, I say similarly, but my point is like there are people that I bring on my show who are like in their 20s and like, man, I've been watching you for years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, one day you will be sitting where I am and I'll be retired and that's the way life goes.
I don't even care if everybody agrees all the time. It's just that it's about, and I think you would say the same for your show, it's about taking you seriously. It's about having the credibility to have them listen to whatever you're saying. And then you can say your thing. But usually they know, well, maybe he's not completely wrong about that one.
You know what I'm really interested in is Real Clear Politics put out this aggregate polling by decade age. I don't want to say demographic because it was like 18 to 29 and it was like 30 to 39.
Yeah.
And only one bracket was anti-Trump and it was 70 plus. And then I
saw that.
Gen X was a tie. And then there's I really want to talk to you about this too. They're saying that Gen Z is becoming more Christian.
Yep.
And moving to the right.
Heard that too.
I'm wondering what's going to happen in 10 years. The boomers are going to be moving on, passing on. I'm not trying to be crass, but it's true. Or retiring.
You can say dead.
They'll be dead.
Yeah.
And what happens to politics in this country?
Not me, haters.
Bill's going to live forever.
Haters and clickbaiters.
The pot and the booze is going to make you young.
I mean,
what
do
happens?
I look like I'm at death's door?
No, you look pretty good.
I mean, do I act like it? I've
Oh.
never missed a show except the 2 they forced me to miss when I had COVID. Wink, wink.
Wow.
They forced me because, of course, I could have contaminated, and the entire city could have died.
I think I would die, to be honest.
You what?
I got real sick.
Pussy.
Yep. And then
fucking
Joe Rogan saved my life.
How?
So-
Ivermectin?
No, well, technically. So I had called a hospital because my temperature was low and I was shaking really bad, and I was like really bad pain. I wouldn't say the worst pain I've ever had.
Okay, why are you in such bad health to begin with? Because unless you're in bad health
I
to
was
begin,
fat. I was fatter.
that's it. I always said that about COVID. Who does it
Thank you.
kill? Fat people and very old people. I'm sorry,
was-
but that's just the truth.
I was,
That's just the truth. No, obviously it could kill anybody and blah, blah, blah. And we should protect, the most vulnerable. But that's who it killed. That's what bugged me about.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
all of our medical profiles are unique. That's why
Well,
I don't like one size fits all.
I caught
diagnosis.
COVID
they were-
3
they were
times,
They were banning people,
and I
off
didn't even
social
know it.
media, shutting down anybody who brought it up. It was a
course.
weird time.
Well,
and
the first time I knew
it
it.
still is weird.
when I caught
and
it.
there's, I don't know.
Club Random is brought to you by the
Ugh.
Crews at Radio and Lactose Bell. Media
There's people who, they have livelihoods here. They've moved to the area. They're from Maryland, DC area.
We're gonna skip
The
that.
conversation I've had with Allison
I'm gonna
is
skip that.
I could stop doing the nightly show, which currently it's typically the second biggest live stream news. It's the biggest live stream news podcast, but Steven Crowder is bigger than us, but he's comedy news. If we want to lump it all together, we're number 2. And it feels, we both feel guilty about saying, stop doing this show with a massive audience so that we can go and have, like, we're rich, we can go do whatever we want. We can just go skiing whenever we want. We can fly to South America and go skiing any time of the year.
Yep.
We feel guilty about that. We both
You know,
feel
and
guilty on it.
If Tim Pool wants to do
Why
something
you
like
feel
that,
guilty?
I don't know. I think it's like
It's
we're afforded
yeah, you
this
earned that, man.
luxury and comfort.
oh, for fuck's sake, get over it. Just enjoy it. Christ, you could be like fucking in the
Well, we're
hospital.
different.
You could be in the hospital with leukemia or some shit. You're
Probably.
you're lucky in some ways. You also
Yeah.
worked for it.
That's
and
right.
This is your fate, and you have it. And trust me, you're not going anywhere. You can go through these permutations in your mind, but at the end of the day, something on your shoulder is going to say, you know what? Let's make hay while the sun shines, and then we can go skiing in South America. Because, like, you don't know how long it's going to last. Popularity, the more you get, the more you have in the bank. It's good. I mean, if you really skyrocket to ultimate sort of fame, people never forget you. I mean, look at
Dude,
Britney Spears. She
dude.
hasn't put out a
I know.
record in 20
They
years,
don't want to let it go.
and people are still very interested. But
I think
that's
Tim's
going
reached
away.
that point.
Like looking at everything you have, and you're talking about the Mets and all this stuff. I think because of there's two.
I mean,
phenomena
with a
that
good-
I think are going to break this. One is the decentralization of media through the internet.
If he has a good investment manager or he learns some like investment tools, Tim Pool's set for life. He can have anything he wants and whenever he wants it. The thing is the things that you can't buy with money is influence. And I think that's really what the left needs to learn. You cannot buy influence. You can think you can, but you really can't. And as long as people don't buy it, they're not going to buy it.
But also the lack of new
wait,
mediums.
break what?
Everybody wants to know what you think about things.
Good, thank you.
I don't, but it is true. I go to like some of these media reporting websites and entertainment websites, and it's not just that Trump did something; it's how you thought about it.
Oh, good.
It's you, Ann Coulter, and Joe Rogan almost always.
Interesting.
I don't know that we have that in 10 or 20 years. So I'll break it down entertainment-wise.
Really, you don't think there'll always be people who
No.
Not like
other
this.
humans? What?
Not the.
No, there won't be. Eventually people won't care because the media is dying. As people go online and they have their online things, like me, I'm a good example of this. I'm a small creator. Maybe 5 people or 10 people will watch this. However, I have these 5 or 6, people that watch me regularly. When there's 1 million of me, that's 6 million people that are going to be taken out. So that's 7 million. It scales, you know? So people are going to be paying attention to whoever the creators are that they like. And it's just going to be so vast that I don't think you're going to have major. The reason why we had tent poles is because we didn't have the ability to form tents. So instead of making a big tent, you know, we had to make huge tents because there's only a few people that could be poles. But now that we can make poles, we can have lots of tents. If that makes sense to you. And that's what's going to happen. They're going to be smaller tents, but they're going to be lots more of them.
Way you guys are.
Yeah.
So, Timcast IRL, we do maybe like 700,000 to 800,000 viewers per night, which is nothing compared to where Anderson Cooper was 20 years ago. It's decentralizing, it's changing. And
Right.
so we have a big audience. People talk like, wow, you've got this really big show. And I'm like, yes, but there's 50 other shows now that are comparable.
And also, just to put it, okay, how many?
And there's going to be
adults
1,000.
are there in America? About
10,000, millions.
280 million.
And
Right?
Gen Alpha's tiny.
Okay, but I'm just saying, of all the adults who could be doing something, if it's 280 million and 700,000 to 800,000 are doing something, yeah, that's compared to how many it could be. To your point,
Right.
you know, like,
Well,
I mean,
here's the other factor in this.
TV shows used to get like a share, which is like the percentage of, there's a rating and a share.
Yeah.
One is like the percentage of people who are doing anything. They could be watching TV, they could be masturbating, they could be playing tennis or ping pong. And the other is just a percentage of the people who are actually watching TV.
Yeah.
So a share is a smaller number because, again, it's only, I mean, it's among the people who could be doing anything. And like TV shows sometimes used to get like a 40 share.
Yep.
40. Like 40% of the country
Yeah.
who could have been doing anything were watching the Wild Wild West. I mean,
That's right.
That is again, this is
Right.
your point.
No,
Like
exactly.
it's so much more bifurcated.
It's because it's decentralized now. And so, like, look at Twitch, all right? You can go to Twitch at any given time and see like 1,000 plus streams running on Twitch of all kinds of different things, and people are watching it. And that's where the scale's gone. It's become there's no networks anymore. Television is going to be extinct. The only people that watch television are old people. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. If you're watching TV, that's going away. So it's all going online. And Netflix and stuff like that, maybe. But that probably shows and entertainment and stuff like that is going to go. And once AI gets here, that people can actually make their own stuff, like those shows are going to get more views than actual television shows that people, you know, make. And so it's eventually going to get bifurcated to the point where there's going to be no one watching anything besides what they want to watch and their favorite creators. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. And if you're in media and you're not trying to expand yourself beyond get a small audience now, you're never going to do it because there's going to be too many people you're competing with. As it is right now, I doubt that I'll be able to create a small audience. I'm trying, but it's impossible with the number. It's not so much that okay, so advertising. It's not so much you're advertising something. If you're an artist and you're a good artist, you'll get known. That's what it used to be. Like early internet days, you could get known for your artwork. Now there's just so many freaking artists out there. It doesn't really matter. So unless you're like one of the like old OGs, you don't really get known, and it's a lottery win now. So like skill matters somewhat, but a lot of it is luck, and a lot of it is just random chance that you get, you know, shouted out, you know. So you have to work on luck as well. That's why I simulcast on so many different streams, because I hope that one of them will be lucky. You know, I'll get that lucky break. And it's mainly I do this because I want to advertise my writing, because really when it comes down to it, my books are going to be more important to me than my own online personality. Now, granted, my online personality might be more profitable in the end, but my books are really what I want to sell and what I'm trying to sell people on. So yeah. And like originally I was doing tutorials, and I was doing writing tutorials. Well, those weren't getting any views really. So I kind of switched on to doing the live streams, and that is getting me more views. And so when I start the writing tutorials again, I'm hoping to have more eyes on it. And it wasn't so much that they were bad, because they're really good writing tutorials. I mean, if you want to learn how to write, you ask me some questions, I can totally tell you. But it's not that they're bad. It's just that there's no luck with them. And whereas if I draw you into watching other things, that's where I'm going to get my luck from. Because there's more chance of you getting eyes on it. So, yeah. I have to talk about things that I don't really necessarily care about.
So I'll give you an example. I was at a bar, and I went to the jukebox, and I put in Bohemian Rhapsody. And what happened?
Oh, yeah. Everyone sang
in the
it.
bar started singing.
Yep.
100%.
Everybody knows that one.
The next song that came on, I didn't even know what it was. It was hip-hop R&B. Everybody broke apart. And so back when we had very few radio stations and very few television channels, they had to be very selective about what they promoted, but they promoted to, like you said, like 40 million people, who knows? So you had that time period. Now for us, I think that combined with the lack of new people. So Gen Alpha is about 40 million, and they're expecting that if we
what age are we talking about?
This is 0 to I think 13 years old.
So the one coming up.
Yeah. So Gen Z just finished, or Gen Z finished a while ago. I think it was like 2010 or something.
No.
2012. I think Gen Z ended.
Gen Z just began.
Gen Z is like 97 to 2012, I think. Yeah. Gen Alpha is 2013 to 2025.
Oh, okay, right. So we're going from when they're born.
Right.
Yeah, right. So we don't really count what they're thinking until they're at least a teenager.
So Gen Alpha is 40 million.
Right.
It's expected to be between 42
so
and 48.
millennials ended at the end. They're like from 1980 to
1996, I think.
This is actually a really interesting conversation about demographics.
Right. But there were 80 million millennials, and there were...
not something that the average person cares about.
72 million millennials right now, 69 million Gen Z, 40 million Gen Alpha. So talking about share, if in 20 years we're looking at Gen Alpha and Gen Z, the dominant generations, there's substantially less of them to buy products, to buy tickets, to know who you are. And there's an increasing competition from decentralization of media. So I don't know how we end up with another Ann Coulter, Bill Maher, Joe Rogan personality, and like the Bohemian Rhapsody song. If I go to anybody in my town where I grew up with, they all watched your show. It's a liberal Chicago, and everybody would put on Real Time. And Jon Stewart.
I got to go to the bathroom real quick.
If I asked anybody who was on a Daily Show right now, they'd say, I don't know, Jon Stewart. I'd be like, one night a week, I think. And who are the other people? No idea. I think Jordan Klepper is one of them. Don't know the rest. To be fair, they have more than one host now. But I think everybody is choosing media that represents them, like you brought up earlier. And it's easier than ever to get into. Then there's going to be less people. You're talking about, owning a piece of the Mets, and I'm like, I might have a big show, but I don't think I'll ever be able to afford owning a piece of the Mets or anything like that.
Well, I doubt if they're going to sell it again. I mean, it was a rare thing. It doesn't happen often in sports when a team sells a chunk of themselves. The Mets were in very bad shape in 2010, and they sold 40% of the team to a select group of investors. That doesn't happen. Billionaires sell the whole thing to each other. They don't sell little pieces of it. But the Mets were so fucked up that they were being sued by the Madoff survivors because they were the ownership of the Mets, and they were lovely people, but they were apparently very in with Bernie Madoff. And so they were, and again, this is the New York franchise. New York. This is baseball. There's nothing more Americana than that. In New York, And
Did I miss anything?
could not attract investors. I mean, when I got it, I was like, I can't believe that I got a piece of the Mets.
Are you allowed to
Where are
say
all
what?
where are the like hundreds of people richer than me?
What was? What are you allowed to say? Like, what was the value that they had put on the Mets? Not what you.
Absolutely. It was so undervalued. At the time, it was 750 million.
Wow.
Again,
Wow.
these aren't the
Wow.
Royals, no offense, Kansas City. This is the Mets, but that's how much they were shit on at the time. And it just shows the sheep mentality. Like it got into people's heads. The Mets, there's a horrible toxic stink on them. Don't go near them. And I was like, oh, I'll go near them. Oh, I'll happily go near them. And again, I mean, when they sold, it was for like 2.5 billion. But even that's way underpriced now. I mean, the
Yeah.
Celtics, I think, just sold for 6 billion.
Celtics,
I mean,
really?
You know.
I said to myself, if there's one thing that always goes up, it's sports franchises. That's just a no loser. And then the pandemic came along and made it slightly more, still a winner, but like
Yeah.
it could have been so much of a bigger winner without the fucking pandemic. So you don't think I suffered?
Yeah.
We
Well,
both suffered from the pandemic. You almost died. I lost money.
I don't know. I mean, I was sick, but with the age thing too. So I'm a skateboarder. I've been skateboarding my whole life.
I know you are.
Yeah, it's Tony Hawk's fault. He landed at 900, and then every millennial had to get a skateboard.
Yeah.
Now there's no skateboarders anymore.
Why?
No kids. Skateboarding.
What?
There's not enough young. There's not enough. So there's 40 million Gen Alpha. To be fair, like it really is that skateboarders are. Let's say this I'm saying this in a punk rock kind of way. Degenerates. And so
Right.
when they found themselves in the late 2000s being millionaires, what did they do? Nothing. They bought big houses. They partied, and now more than half of skateboarders are over the age of 30.
But that is the story of every generation as they get older.
But you need an industry. So like Hollywood, music and entertainment had an industry. Sure, the rock stars were nuts. The problem with skateboarding is the rock stars ran the business.
Yep.
So the core industries that made skateboarding big were also running the business. And
That's true.
here we are. And
But that is amazing to me
yeah,
that kids are not into it anymore.
scooters. You know what I think?
You know, that is true. That is true. I see
this
scooters much more. I've never been into
Going
skateboarding.
down a flight of stairs
There is. Like,
and wrecking your body on an
I
unforgiving.
was too risk adverse.
Yeah,
I would rather draw a picture.
You just
I
don't
think
get-
the top earner in skateboarding off of the sport alone was like 400,000 for the year,
Really?
and then
But
it immediately curls down to the top 10, made about 100.
don't you think a lot of that is just every new generation has to shit on what the previous generation did and
Mhm.
not do anything but that?
I agree.
Well, maybe the older skateboarders think that skateboarding comes and goes in waves, and there's nothing you can do about it. But I don't believe that's true. It's an Olympic sport.
No,
you're going to have
no.
China. Well, actually, let me put it this way. I believe tariffs. I'm sorry, not tariffs, but free trade is one of the principal culprits for the decline in skateboarding. And the proof of that is that in Japan and China, skateboarding's never been bigger.
Mm.
So one of the biggest skateboard brands, probably the biggest, the premier, it's called the Barracks, shut down in LA.
You know what? Tim Pool
it's
knows
shocking.
way more about it.
And they're reopening in Japan, where we offshored all of our jobs in manufacturing and the industry to China. Now Southeast Asia has a massive booming skate culture. They even have a reality TV show, it's like Ninja Warrior, but for skateboards. In the United States, you got a bunch of 35-year-old men.
So how old do you think you'll be when you stop skateboarding?
Never.
Yeah, that's what I say about basketball. I mean, I always have. I mean, look at my finger. That's a basketball injury.
Wow.
I don't give a shit. Yeah, rebounding. You know, when the ball hits
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
it's
Jam.
fine. It'll get better. Yeah, jams.
That just
All-
happened?
Yeah, about a week ago.
Oh, wow.
You know,
That's great.
it's great.
Yeah.
It's totally worth it. I played last night.
Hell yeah.
You know, now when I play.
I hope I never chop off my fingers when I'm woodworking.
40-minute stretch before. I mean, I don't get out, and then knee pads and
Yep.
but all the things the pros wear, shit on their
Yeah.
ankles. You want all the support you can.
I got to
And-
stretch now, too.
What?
I got to stretch now, too.
Yeah,
I didn't used to.
it's a, you know what? Trust me, bro. 40 is nothing.
I know.
You're at a great point in your life. It's great to be 40, and look, you're killing it. That's really great. And apropos to your thing about feel guilty, don't. That's stupid. If you live here with one piece of advice, don't do that. That's dumb. Don't give
That's
up
the liberal in you.
don't give up. That's not the liberal in me. That's the smart guy in me. Don't give up your fucking show. That's stupid too.
Yep.
Keep doing, at a point.
Bill Maher's actually right.
Out to pasture. Don't put yourself out to pasture. I can name some people who did that to themselves in this business who were like, oh, I'm going to walk away from this. Yeah, good luck. And nobody ever invites you to walk back. When you have it, you have a good piece of real estate, just take it. There was here, let me tell you about Generation. There's a movie that actually was Johnny Carson's production company made. It was a big movie in 1983 called The Big Chill.
I'm
And it
actually
was
pretty
about
impressed with
how
this because Bill Maher is
the people who were like fucking
quite all right.
dippies in like the late 60s when they were like 18, 19, 20, right? You know, the flower power and
I was actually expecting this entire video to be me like bad mouthing Bill Maher because he's not as far left as, at least he's personable when he's talking and stuff. I'm not as offended by him. His show I can't stand. I've tried watching his show. I can't stand him. He's once every now and then, like once in a blue moon, he makes sense. But like, no, this is okay. This is okay.
Free love and Woodstock. Okay, you got the general impression, right? All you need is love. Okay, so
Boomer's had it good, man.
right. So like then this movie takes place like in currently, which was at the time 1983. So now these people who were hippies are like early 30s, and it takes place. It's about like these. Some guys he lives in like on a kind of remotely just out like in the exurbs I think it's North Carolina, and like all the college friends are coming over, and so there's a lot of reunioning kind of thing. And when we were hippies, it was great. There's a scene where like something happens, and a cop car comes up to the house, and the guy who's like owns the house and is having all his college friends over, and he's just like, oh, thanks, nothing, but whatever it was, and you Bob, and goes, oh, thank you, and he goes back in the house, and his college friend is like, man, you were so nice to the pigs, and he's like, dude, I live here now, okay?
Yeah.
It's not like we're in college. I'm dug in. I think that was his line. I'm dug in here,
Yeah.
Like, I have a family. I want the cop to be my friend. They're not all pigs anymore, okay? Grow the fuck up. And that's like the great conflict of the movie is like, are we still hippies with all that ideology, some of which was good and some of which was stupid? Or are we just growing up? And you know what? That generation, who did they vote for in 1980? Ronald Reagan.
But I hear from you.
Oh man,
mix a little bit of the understanding growing.
Don't get me started on Reagan. I hate Reagan. I think he was an awful president. I think he's one of the worst presidents for us. I am very right leaning. I think he was very far left. Yes, he is the reason why we're having the problem with the immigrants right now. Screw that guy.
But also come on, do your thing.
Free trade also.
I guess my question is like, what do you have a preference for what the future of this country and world should be?
A preference?
Yeah.
I mean, peace and prosperity and democracy.
Because I feel like you're with politics, you're very in it, and there's a reason you, I, or anybody else wants to be involved in the goings on of the world is because we want things to be done better or right.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I wonder when I say like things about being guilty, it's like if I have this platform that is influential, and I can, like you said, people will listen to me, and I can say, hey, like I think this is a good way to do things, and that can make the world that way. That's why I feel guilty of walking away from that opportunity. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's great too. I mean, that's a great motivation. I mean, that's the best motivation. I mean,
that's the only motivation.
I never try to fool myself to think that what I'm doing is so noble that it's not really because it's doing what I want to do. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. I'm so glad that it does things for other people. And if you ask me what is the great joy of my life, I would sum it up by saying, there's this thing that I can do that enough people feel like I'm the only one who can kind of do that for them.
Mm.
I'm the only one who can kind of scratch that itch. You know what I mean? And every week I'm like, they want me to do this thing for them. And I love being able to give them that gift. Like, I'm
Yep.
going to do this. I'm going to interpret the news in a way that is just different than anybody else does. And it does the thing for you. And I love that connection. Like, I give you this gift and you appreciate it. And that really is that's the relationship of my life.
You're obviously an atheist.
Yes.
Famously
Yes.
religious. I saw it when you put it out,
Oh,
and
good. Thank you.
I know I was lapsed Catholic, briefly atheist. Now I'm not Christian. I don't like the word deist, but the future.
Hey,
we're seeing this massive push towards Christianity, and like young people are
Yes.
adopting it.
What do you make of that?
Well, one thing I think is true is that conservatives had more kids in the 2000s.
Yep.
I know a lot of people want to claim these ideological victories where they say like we've red pilled
Right.
people. And I've pointed this out for years. No, just in like 2003, there were a couple studies that came out saying that liberals were having less kids than conservatives.
Yep, that is
Well,
so
20
true.
years later, what do you expect to see?
More conservative.
Conservative people than liberal people, just because the parents had kids.
Yep.
Right.
I do think also that one of the more interesting trends, however, is that among Gen Z, irrespective of that, there's been a rightward ideological shift among men, and I think this has to do with contemporary politics, movies, games, culture, etc.
And also men feeling that they were targeted unfairly. There is a lot of toxicity in being maleness. Some of that we can't control. Some of that is just how we're born. We were drawn that way. You know, boys are
Yep.
going to be more rambunctious in school. They're going to be harder to discipline.
Yeah.
They're going to have
Yep.
more excess energy.
Yep.
And we kind of we went like we do with everything, went overboard and made it seem sometimes like maleness itself was on trial.
It's like a race to the bottom.
So it's not what?
It was a race to the bottom of all these different cultural elements trying to one up what was wrong with masculinity.
Yeah, kind of.
A little bit.
And it's not surprising that they would run to Trump.
Yep.
They would run to the guy. I mean, it's kind of like, why do cops vote for Trump? Well, the guy who's like out there saying they're not the enemy, and they're not. I mean, there are things that obviously should be criticized about the police too, which Trump would never do, because he's always all in on one way. But I can totally understand if you're a cop, you feel very misunderstood, and you are.
I can agree with that,
You
actually.
understand that you do something that the society needs, and they don't seem very grateful about it.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so it's kind of similar to that.
People, man, there's one prominent cop. I think this is Donut Operator. I could be wrong, so forgive me if I'm getting the guy wrong. But he was a cop, and I could be getting the guy wrong. But the thing that
Donut
these
Operator?
cops deal with that people don't understand is they see these negative stories in the press all the time. And yeah, when there's a bad cop doing a bad thing, let's lock him up, let's put him in jail. But my dad was a firefighter, and he told me when I was younger, he's like, never be a cop, because the things these guys deal with,
Yeah.
one day, like you're getting a phone call about a domestic violence incident. You show up
Yeah.
and some guy screaming in your face, spitting on you, swinging at you, and then you go and see a mother holding her dead son who got hit by a car in one day. And then these people are they deal with this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And then what happens is they go to a store where there's some minor altercation and they're not having it. And these cops are assholes, man. And it's like, that man just watched a child die and the mother scream, and now you're bothering him over some like petty BS at a supermarket.
Right.
So it is pretty brutal. But then I do think,
Empathy.
I say this somewhat
I'm telling
facetiously,
you.
ban the internet, get rid of social media, because
Empathy will change how you look at things, and just knowing that they might have experiences changes your interactions with people. Just have some empathy. Realize that when people are hostile, it's normally not you that they're hostile at. It's normally not the event or the situation. It's all the situations that led up to that one. So just have empathy.
it puts people in these bubbles where they only see the bad thing.
Yep.
And I think it's making people go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about the younger generation, right? Here's one really interesting phenomenon in the political polarization. In the end of the 2000s on Facebook, the top content was police brutality. And there was one website that was one of the top global websites that only made articles about police brutality. Why?
Who?
Hit all the algorithmic points: shock
Yep.
content, justice, anger. And so imagine you're 10 years old in 2010 and you go on a Facebook. Maybe you're not supposed to, but you do. What do you find? BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, Mike.com, and they're blasting you with nothing but black man killed, unarmed black man killed. The reason they were doing this was so Facebook found that after around 300 friends or likes, the
Money.
chronological feed becomes incomprehensible. And they wanted to make sure that people stayed on the page longer. So they created the algorithm.
Yeah,
That's why if
it's
you
all money.
post, I'm getting married or having a baby, you will appear on the top of everyone's feeds. It's true. Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
At the time, they didn't do this intentionally, but they created an algorithm that if it got shared more, it got promoted more. And so what happened was, first, that these websites like Huffington Post found that an article that said something like "racist thing happens" would get more shares.
Yep.
They made more of it.
That's right.
Actually, a great example is Mike.com, M-I-C. It started as a Ron Paul libertarian freedom website. It was trending on the internet in 2008. And then it turned into social justice, intersectional feminism, and police brutality because that was generating most of the shares on Facebook. So
Yep.
these younger kids who are 10 or whatever are inundated with nothing but this. What happens? There's this famous video where a guy goes to Venice Beach and he asks people, how many unarmed black men do you think were killed by police last year? And they say 1,000, 10,000. It was 9.
I know.
And it's because the media, or I should say social media, was propping up select stories over and over and over again. And where it gets crazy is even the same story every week.
But let's look at what's behind that. What's behind that?
Money.
What it is white guilt.
No.
There's a certain segment of the left
Yeah.
that feels very bad.
Oh, that's true.
About
That's true.
The horrible racist history of our country, which they themselves probably participated not at all in.
Yeah.
And they are just constantly.
I take that. I do not believe that. I believe that they have white guilt because they actually feel that way. Like, they're racist people. That's why they feel guilty about it. And the reason why they assume everyone else is racist is because they think that way. So, like, when you have this liberal white person saying, you know, oh, this black guy, you know, he should be the, you know, promoted or whatever because of his race, it's because that person believes less of that. Like, if you're anti-racist, like, if you have that philosophy of anti-racism, chances are you're dealing with a racist. And they're racist to their core of their soul. Like, they're deep down racist and they feel guilty about it. And the only way to be free from that is to admit that you have racist tendencies. Like, I will admit that I'm racist, but guess what? I had a friend named Sedwin who, when I was in college, actually it was before I was in college, I met him, and he was pointing out that some of the slavery and stuff like that, the Egyptians had slaves. And I was like, yeah, but, you know, that doesn't really justify slavery. He's like, no, it doesn't justify it. But what I'm saying is they had slaves. So, you know, other people had slaves. And I'm like, I don't really agree with that. But, you know, he was really big on, like, pointing out other cases of slavery in history. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really prove anything. And then he was like, yes, but the point is everyone was racist. And so if you have to go around apologizing for racism for people owning slaves, then I have to too, because my family and my ancestors did the same thing to other people. And if you really deconstruct down with genetics and stuff like that, we probably all came from Africa, you know, or the Middle East, at least, at the very least, the Middle East. And if we all came from this one spot, we all are related. And so any one person, like, I have no, how do I say this? My direct family, right? I have an ideology and a moral framework that allows me to B, I'm going to do more for my direct family, right? So naturally, most people have that, and then maybe they might do some more for, the next person and the next person. Well, somebody from the same city as you, from the same country as you, yada yada yada. Well, if you're a Christian, you come at that at a different peel. All right. So like, instead of viewing everyone by race, sex, category, basically categorizing everyone, you view everyone as an individual. And as an individual, you recognize that they're loved by God, and because everyone is loved by God. We're all image bearers of God, Man was made in God's image. We are the image bearers. So if that is the case, and we're image bearers of Christ and of God, and we're supposed to be representing him, then you treat every man, every woman with the utmost respect, because by respecting them, you're respecting God. And so I know that's like weird, and like, especially for non-religious people or atheists, it's weird to view things like that. But it is the way that I myself, I'm not speaking for anyone else, but as a Christian, I view everyone. So everyone is worthy of life, liberty, and happiness. And to deprive somebody of that, of any one of those things, is wrong. Yeah.
Doing things that they think are for someone else, but I think are for themselves.
I completely
think-
agree.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of self-flagellating themselves about the racial issue, which of course the history is appalling, and the present has problems too,
Yep.
racially in this country. But they make it worse. Let's put it just in general.
agree.
They make it worse.
I just
And
did.
it's
I
really
just
about
disagree
how
with
it's
him
not
saying
about
that they're not
actually helping-
racist.
making any black lives better. Actually, that doesn't really happen from all their hyperventilating. It
Yep.
makes them feel a certain way. It
That's right.
makes them that's what people have to realize about that.
Have you followed any of the Chicago stuff with Mayor, what's it, Brandon?
Brandon Justice?
You want to know what's really fascinating about that?
He's worse than the last one.
Oh, he's terrible. But you know how he won? White guilt.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Let me-
No, I understand.
But wait, it's good. So I actually took the electoral map of vote breakdown by neighborhood, overlaid it with the racial breakdown per neighborhood, and what do we find? Every black neighborhood, their top 3 candidates were black. Even people who weren't frontrunners or polling anywhere near didn't matter. The black neighborhoods did not vote for any white guy or Latinos. The Latino neighborhood, guess what? Latino guys. The white neighborhoods, white guys. Except for one, the college liberal area of Loyola.
Sure.
They voted for Johnson.
Yeah.
And so even though Johnson
and that tipped
wasn't,
the election?
that tipped it.
Yeah.
And so people thought there was this
That's
one
funny.
dude that all of the suburbanites were going to vote for. Not
That's
the suburbanites,
funny.
Chicago, so it's not suburban, but like the outskirts in the Northwest. And he did really well. But when Loyola college liberals was the one area where it was predominantly white that voted for the black candidate, put it over the edge, and this is what you get.
Yeah.
Now they're all mad.
the living here in California, trust me, the concept of liberal in theory. This is something I say very often. People who are liberals in theory, and then you see how they live, like terrible to the household help.
Yeah.
Like consider
Oh my
their
gosh, yep.
assistants, because everyone out here has to have an assistant. They can't do anything for themselves. I mean, I do too, but I never call my assistant on the weekend or after hours. Most people here consider their assistant a 24/7 slave. This is what I mean
Yeah.
about liberal in theory. Yeah, in theory, you're a liberal, but like, how do you actually live your life? And of course,
Yep.
like very privilegey, and they absolutely hate privilege, but their whole life is sustained by the privilege of not having to be practiced.
And that's what I mean by when I say that white guilt is actually racism. Like, it's them trying to cover for their own racism. The same thing with them being like, oh, we're against the privilege, and they're privileged themselves. It's because they are See, like everything that a liberal hates, as far as the shit libs, is who they are. So like if they're saying something like, you know, all white people are, or all, you know, straight people are, or all, whenever they say stuff like that, make up your mind. The reason why they're saying that is because they think that and they hate that they think that. You can dislike what you think, like what you believe is true. Like, okay, so I don't like people that wear suits. Now I know that all people that wear suits are bad people. A matter of fact, I might like to wear a suit someday. You know, I don't look good in suits. But if you wear a suit, I naturally have a dislike towards you. Why is that? I don't know. But I naturally dislike people in suits, and I have no clue why. Now, do I want to become a suitist? Like, I hate people that wear suits, so I try to overcompensate by loving people that wear suits? No. I have to deal with that. That's my own problem. It's my own issue. So, whenever you discover these things about yourself that you try to overcompensate for something, you got to accept yourself. You got to accept yourself and your thoughts. Like, fact of the matter is, any one of us could have been the Nazi that gassed one of the Jews. You have to accept the fact that given the right set of circumstances, you could be put in that shoe. Like, you could be Hitler. You could. If given the right set of circumstances to raise you up into that. Cheap views. Dude. Screw off, man. Anyways.
Or knowledgeable about a lot of things which they pontificate on and act like they're knowledgeable about. And also just, you know, like many homes, like expensive vacations. I mean, it's not like they are, you know, if you really feel that bad about it, switch houses with someone in Compton.
But
You know, let
this
them
is
live here in your house.
That's
you
right.
Live in their house, and then
That's
you feel
right.
better.
this is a part of what I call wokeness. Everybody's always trying to define it some way.
Right.
But I define it specifically as cult-like adherence to the liberal orthodoxy. And the reason why I say that is because being in media and cultural spaces for the past 15 years, watching all of this, the conservatives like to say it's DEI, it's race, but that doesn't explain support for certain institutions, support for war in Ukraine, doesn't explain the Me Too movement. These are all different things. It doesn't explain support for Islam, particularly, which is the second biggest religion in the world. So it's not about critical theory or anything like that. It's about looking like you're virtuous. So these liberals who live the way you're describing it want to make sure that as they're seen outwardly to other liberals, they are perfectly in line with what is virtuous and right. We call it virtue signaling. But it can manifest into literally anything. Like, again, supporting the second largest religion in the world while claiming that they're oppressed, but massive.
Well, I mean, there's so much to get into here. One is the word liberal, very fraught for me because I still think I'm a liberal. I think woke is a different thing.
I agree, yeah.
I mean, but your example about Islam is completely right, and it's one of the main reasons why the far left started to really hate me is because I call out Islam as what it is, extremely illiberal. That's what's so ironic about liberals being so supportive of Hamas is because you're liberals, and these are the people. I'm sorry, but this ideology, Islam, even in its more benign forms, yes, I agree. The vast majority of Muslims, not terrorists, of course, but Islamists, which is the word we use to describe people who are not terrorists, but kind of agree with the things terrorists are doing
Yep.
and are for, that's a much higher number. That's many millions of people. And even the rank and file, I mean, most Muslim societies live under some form of Sharia law, which no Westerner who thinks that Hamas is so great could ever live under. Your fundamental rights that you take for granted here in America, you would not have.
Yep.
You know, I mean, all the protesters who are protesting in Gaza against Hamas, they've all been killed.
Right.
They killed protesters. Women. I mean, do I have to say anything more than just if it was just that issue, how women are treated? Are you fucking kidding me?
And the narrative is, when I talk to some of these academics, like the anti-woke people, they're like, well, it's because they say that, Gaza is oppressed. And I'm like, sure, but they're
By
siding
Hamas.
with the second biggest religion in the world, which is authoritarian, fundamentalist. And like, I don't care if you practice whatever religion you want to practice, it's fine. But it's strange to me to claim that Islam is oppressed in any meaningful way.
Well, I do care what you practice, and I fully defend to the death your right to practice whatever religion you want. Just don't lie to me and say all religions are alike. All religions are not alike, and what makes them different mostly
It's true.
is how fundamentalist they are.
Yeah.
Fundamentalist means you actually believe what's in the holy book. I mean, there's the Quran, there's the Bible, and they're both full of nonsense. But we have learned to wink at the Bible in the West, whereas Islam, to a much greater extent, takes it very seriously. I mean, we do not have things like madrasas.
So as a Christian, I would totally disagree with Bill Maher. The reason the difference between Christianity and other religions is that we believe in our Savior. We actually believe in our Savior, versus other people who believe they need to fight for their saviors. That is the fundamental difference. Like, we know that in time that everything's going to be worked out in time. We pray and we hope that people will repent and, well, not just repent, but believe in Jesus as Lord. But if they don't, then God will fix that later on. It's not for us to fix.
Is here where they send kids to school and they just learn that one book, that they are not studying anything else in a madrasa. That's the meaning of it.
Yeah.
And of course they're segregated completely sexually. So I mean, what's going to be the upshot of that?
It's like a Handmaid's Tale, right?
It's worse.
Yeah.
I think. But
yeah, and I'm not Christian, and but I have a lot of friends who are, and I don't care.
But what are you? You said you were going on this before. You were like, I'm not a deist. I'm not.
Well,
a
that's
this,
the thing. Like,
but you're not an atheist anymore.
No,
so
I'm not an atheist.
What do you believe
I
in?
don't think God exists, but I don't believe in any scriptures or anything like that. I think man is fallible, and to write down books and then claim it's the word of God is silly.
So how long were you an atheist, and what did we do wrong not to keep you?
I went to Catholic school, and
well,
there you go.
I went to catechism.
Well, I didn't do that. At fifth grade, I left. And so what happened for me in Catholic school was they taught me nothing. They showed me a video of Adam riding a brontosaurus. I'm not joking.
I went to the museum in Religulous where they have the exhibit of Jesus on the brontosaurus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they told us that the dinosaurs were too big to fit on the ark, and the unicorns were too rambunctious. Not kidding. Showed unicorns were dancing and ran away from the ark. And I'm like, so I remember.
Yeah,
that's why they didn't survive.
That's right.
I see.
One formative moment was when I asked my fifth grade teacher.
Can't argue with logic.
Right. So the Big Bang we were learning it, fifth grade science.
Really? Good for you.
At Catholic school. And I asked my teacher, if the universe was in a single point and then expanded outward, is it possible that, I raised my hand and asked this, is it possible that at some point it stops and then comes back in? And she went, I don't know. Moving on. And I was furious.
Why? Who does know that? Nobody.
It's called the Big Crunch Theory, and it was dismissed 100 years ago. So what pissed me off was, reflecting upon it, I genuinely wanted to know what they were trying to teach, and they couldn't teach me anything. So what did I do? I went home and went on the internet and read to myself. And so immediately I'm like, fake. They don't have no idea what they're talking about. The religion is BS. I'm done.
Okay, so Tim Pool's older than me, and I was around for the beginning of the internet. The internet, I don't know, man. I'm sorry, because he said specifically the fifth grade. So if he's 39, that's 1, 2, that would have been the first grade for me. I'm not even sure the internet was actually around for residential stuff when I was in the first grade. Maybe I was in. Maybe it wasn't the first grade. Maybe it was the second grade. I don't know. That sounds a little
And so
weird.
it wasn't like I was in fifth grade, I was 9 years old. But this is when I was like,
Oh,
probably
okay.
around 12 or 13 is when I was like, this is stupid. What are they even talking about? And like shellfish you
Okay.
can't eat, but they're eating it. These people don't follow this stuff.
Well,
But that's scripture. That's not God. And so what happened
Right.
was I read about negative entropy,
Mhm.
and it discusses the trying to simplify as much as I can. Everything tends towards entropy.
Yes.
entropy being randomness. Everything tends toward randomness.
To a certain degree, but at some point it will become uniformity in the
Right.
heat death of the universe.
The way it was described to me when I took physics for poets at Cornell University was like if after 6 months you don't reorganize your sock drawer, it's a mess. That's entropy. And that happens in the universe.
An egg breaking.
Everything happens
Yeah.
toward randomness, and it's true. Like you have to, in your own life, you have to constantly be retarding entropy, or
Right.
else your life is a mess. And some people can live in a mess and clutter, and they like it. But
Yeah.
that desk, that we've all seen, where the tuna fish sandwich is under like
Yep.
3 piles of
And that-
paper, from 2 weeks ago. That some people live in that. I can't. I have to always retard entropy.
But so that is negative entropy, which can only exist.
Yeah.
in
What is negative entropy?
exactly what you described?
Oh, fixing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that can only exist within a greater system of entropy. And so I'm reading this, and I started reading about how matter coalesces.
Yep.
Hydrogen becomes helium.
That's right.
The greater elements and things like that. The elements become compounds. Becomes chemical compounds. Becomes single cellular life. Becomes multicellular organisms. I kind of view it like, on top of that, fire. We know it exists. We can make it. And what is fire? It's the releasing of
Yep.
energy from, carbon and oxygen slammed together, and the energy gets released. And the energy was stored from solar energy, which we view as some type of fire. It's fusion, which we're watching in the sky, but it works similarly, right? And so then my thought was, consciousness exists, at least I can say for myself because I experience it. But if consciousness is a component that exists within the universe mathematically, like in the code of the universe, same as fire, is there probability of a higher form of consciousness? Yes, completely. Just like fire can be a forest fire,
That's
it
right.
can be a star, or even a gigantic supermassive black hole. Consciousness exists in the universe as a component of the universe. Thus, the universe experiences consciousness. So I wonder if God then is not scripture-based, but that there is something beyond our singular consciousness. You get where I'm trying to go with it? I don't know. Maybe it's
I
convoluted.
think it's really deep for a redneck. I really.
Okay. So I agree with Tim, actually. He says it's not scripturally based, but believe it or not, his train of thought is actually very scripturally based. If you look at the very, very beginning, everything is made of light. And God said, "Let there be light." That was the first thing that God did in the very, very beginning. And if you study light particles, there's a whole type of quantum physics and stuff like that you can get involved in. But photons and stuff like that, and plasma energy and all this, if you really study it, you discover that it does have consciousness outside of, like, for instance, if you were to take a monomolecular molecule and cut that monomolecular molecule, you'll discover the Planck length of something, and then eventually it loses locality. Well, once you lose locality, you discover that there is a digital framework to existence. And so there is a maximum smallness. And so and obviously there's a maximum largeness. Obviously the size of the universe is maximally large. So if there's a maximum smallness and maximal largeness, and you can actually communicate with, there's a lot to it. But fact of the matter is, Tim's actually speaking scripture. He just doesn't realize how much scripture he's actually speaking.
I'm from Chicago. What can I say?
Just fucking with you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's like, I love the way everybody takes their shot at talking themselves into what they just really want to believe. And
I don't really wanna believe it.
I totally respect that. No, I mean, it's a lot easier and probably healthier to have that in your back pocket, like to think, oh, and I just don't.
I'm not saying.
But I don't know. But I don't say it's not. You know what? That
Yeah.
people have this thing that atheists are dogmatic. No, we're just saying we don't know, and quite frankly, we don't
That's agnostic.
really care because we don't think we're ever going to really know or be able to know. So we just kind of put it out of our heads. But we don't.
He's
think
not an
it's
atheist. He's
obviously the
agnostic.
myths that have come down to us from.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to say that there's like a being watching over us and
No,
dictating.
of course it's
like
not.
that.
It couldn't. I mean,
It's more like the logic that is the universe is the Einsteinian God, they call it.
And that's where Tim loses me, because I think the consciousness of the universe, or whatever you want to call it, is much more than that. I think God exists as God. He just makes up everything.
Viewing, our human experience and our emotions are unique to us.
I mean, I've said this before, but the idea that, and I'm sure the Big Bang Theory is correct, or I guess it is. I mean, again, talk about going on faith.
Big Bang Theory, once again, was a Christian theory. Like, look up the origins of the Big Bang Theory.
I just think Neil deGrasse Tyson seems smarter than my pastor when I was a kid. My priest is and so I guess but the idea that all of matter in the universe, which is just, I can't even go into how big it is, was just fit into something like tiny, like, and just explode. Like, first of all, why do it that way? It just seems silly.
I think it's wrong.
And you don't believe in the Big Bang Theory?
No.
What about the show?
The show was terrible, and if you take the laugh track out, it didn't work. But let me elaborate. Science is wrong all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think the Big Bang is what we know so far.
Right.
But there's already theories about the Big Bang may have been what's called a white hole. Are you familiar with that
No.
idea? The other side of a black hole.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yes.
string theory, unified M theory. I don't really follow the stuff as much as I was, 20 years ago. But
See, a white hole is something of another dimension creating something of another dimension and placing material into this dimension, aka the universe, where God built everything. Just pointing it out.
But one idea is that the universe is a 12-dimensional structure, and basically what happens.
It's funny that he mentions 12 dimensions, because if you read Genesis, you can actually come to the conclusion that we have 12 dimensions: length, height, width. Length, height, width, time, and what was the other one? Anyways, 5 are knowable, and 7 are unknowable. And you can read ancient philosophers who talked about this. You can also check out Chuck Missler. He's a good guy for that type stuff. His Genesis Bible study is pretty good for that type of stuff. Now, granted, I think some of this stuff is dated, but it's pretty accurate.
What happened with our universe is someone took a piece of rubber, pinched it, and then blew. It's expanding as matter is pouring into it, but that's just one balloon of the universe being blown up in a much larger universe of multiple dimensions. I really don't know,
Well, I just got word from the Huffington Post. We need to capitalize black hole, but not white hole.
Because one is socially acceptable.
All right. Well, I'm so glad I got to know you.
I really do appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
All right.
I hope you had a good time.
I know everyone's they're
Wait.
gonna yell at me saying, "Why weren't you yelling at Bill Maher?" I'm like, because
No, you don't
Gotta
yell
say,
at
I'm
people
so-
when you're having
that's
conversations
what I
with
love
them.
about this show. It's like, yeah, there's some yelling because we're human, and
Yeah.
of course we're not going to
Mhm.
be there. But it doesn't get in the way of being pals.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
My friends
anytime.
are super
No, I'm
excited. that
thrilled.
we're
I
here.
was thrilled you wanted to do it.
Okay. So that's pretty much it. All right, good. So that was Bill Maher. I'm actually pleasantly surprised. That was more cordial. Like he said, and I'm sure that Bill I'm sure Tim Pool has fans that will be pissed that he wasn't yelling at Bill Maher, because yes, there's some things that Bill Maher is wrong on, But there's also a lot that Tim Pool's wrong on. I mean, there's a lot that I'm wrong on, obviously. Everyone's wrong on so many different things. The way that I look at it is most people try to feel smart before they leave. And what I mean by before they leave, before they die, you know. And they try to pretend that they know things, but really they don't. And like, honestly, like the amount of knowledge that any one of us has, it's very minute. I learned that in grade school. Almost all the stuff that we were taught in grade school, we had to unlearn when we went to high school. And then also all the stuff I learned in high school, I had to unlearn by college. And when I was in college, I figured out, oh, I'm just going to have to unlearn everything because everything was a lie and everything's wrong. Or not even a lie. I won't even say that. It's just everything is just, you can only have knowledge of things that have actually affect you. You can have random guesses, and even then you have random guesses. It's just perception. What you perceive is true and what you don't. There are some things that are true. Like, I'm not saying like, what is true? Like, you know, Jordan Peterson did the other day. If you'd like me to respond to Jordan Peterson's thing, you know, leave that in the comments because I was thinking about covering his video. I think that's spiritual, and I think I might be able to have a bit more, because like I don't call myself an apologist for Christianity, but I kind of am. I teach Bible study, and I also teach Sunday schools, so I do have, you know, a little bit of teaching it. It's amateur, you know. I don't have a degree in anything like that, and nor do I have a spiritual degree, but I do. I know enough, you know. But anyways, that was the Bill Maher and Tim Pool. It was very interesting to see their religious talk at the very end. And also the talk about analytics. I know I enjoyed that. I don't know how much you guys enjoyed that, but I did really like that talk. But the other stuff, you know, the cultural stuff, I kind of agree with it, kind of don't. It's you know what it is. So anyways, that was my thing. My reaction, I guess. So I hope you like, subscribe, and favorite. And yeah, you click down below, comment, and share with a friend. Okay, so I'm trying to grow my audience, and like I'd like to get it to 1,000, obviously, subscribers. Reason why I want to get to 1,000 is not because I'm trying to be like a, you know, I'm not begging. I'm not e-begging. But I would like to have people, I wouldn't say, I'd like to be able to start earning ad income, and you need to get to 1,000 first and have 4,000 hours of watch time. I have the 4,000 hours of watch time already. I don't actually have it right now, but I will if I get the subscribers for it. So if you like and subscribe, I will continue producing awesome videos for you. Tomorrow, the plan is to play Elden Ring, the new one that's coming out tomorrow, actually. Ho, ho, ho! So I will be playing that and torturing myself with another mage build. That's right. We're going full mage. We are magic blasting that space. Yeah. Because I suck. Maybe I might use a sword or something like that. I don't know. But I'll be playing that for the foreseeable future. And then we'll do radio later on in June. Probably around my birthday, actually. June 24th. Anyways, I'll catch you guys later. And I love you all. Take care. And yeah. I also, if you have any spiritual questions or something like that, you can always feel free to ask me writing questions, ask me art questions, ask me production and all that stuff. Just ask me questions if you want to. You can do it right in the comments below, or you can check out my Discord. It's all in the links and stuff. So anyways, yeah, love you all. Catch you later. Bye.